In this video, we're going to learn how to deploy a Kubernetes resource with env0. Now, first things first, we're going to have to be able to connect to our Kubernetes cluster. And to do that, there are a few different options. Of course, if you're in Azure or AWS or whatever the case may be, but usually it comes down to pulling down your kube config to wherever you're deploying resources. Now, to do that, we're going to need an env0 YAML file where our Kubernetes resource exists, which we'll look at in just a second. But if I click on this, you could actually literally copy and paste this. So really all I'm doing here, well, there are a few different things. I'm creating a step to actually be able to log into the Kubernetes cluster, but where the magic happens is this command right here. So what we're doing is we're pulling down our kube config in our env0 environment. And we're going to see these variables here in just a second. Now, from a deployment perspective, we're going to be deploying an nginx container, and it's going to run as a deployment resource inside of Kubernetes with 2 replicas. Now let's head over to env0, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to our project variables, and as you can see, I have 2 environment variables here, one for the region and then one for the cluster name. Now my cluster name is called K8s env cluster, and I'm deploying to US East 1. Now notice here, I am using environment variables, not Terraform variables. Why? Because we're deploying a Kubernetes resource, not a Terraform resource. So now I'm going to go to project environments, and I'm going to click on create new environment. I'm going to call from VCS. I'm going to choose Kubernetes as my IAC type. I'm going to click next here, choose GitHub, and then I'll go ahead and I'll choose my repository here. So env0 K8s, and then my branch main. Now for the Kubernetes folder, because my nginx.yaml and my env0.yaml are in the root directory of this repo, I don't have to choose a specific folder. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave that blank. Then I'm going to click next. And now at this point, we can see the environment variables. So the default region, the cluster name, they're all here, good to go. And then I'm going to click next. Then I'll go ahead and I'll create a new environment. So K8s deploy. Now what's cool about this is we kind of get like a GitOpsy style workflow here when we check the redeploy on every push to the Git branch. So what happens is, let's say I change the code in my nginx.yaml, like maybe I change it from 2 replicas to 4 or something like that, it's going to automatically deploy, which is really cool because again, you know, you kind of get a bunch of different features in here. You have Terraform configurations, your Kubernetes deployment configurations, all that stuff. And you also get this little GitOps feel here, which is really cool in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click done. And then as you can see, the deployment's going to start here in just a minute. So if we scroll down here, it's going to load our variables, our configuration file, all that. And if we click on the load env0 YAML file, we can see that here's our command running to pull down our Kubernetes configuration. And in the K8s diff, this is going to tell us what's going to actually be deployed, which is our nginx Kubernetes resource. We'll go ahead and we'll approve that. And then the last step is it's going to actually go and deploy it for us. And then if we click on the K8s apply, we can see here that it's actually running a kubectl apply in the background. And as we can see, the resources were created, and if I scroll down, we can see our deployments and our nginx deployment right here. If we go to deployment logs, again, we can go ahead and we can take a look at all these steps that were created. And that's how you can deploy a Kubernetes resource with env0. Thank you so much for watching.